Hello, and welcome to today's lesson in quantitative reasoning. We are going to look at forming a two-statement truth table that contains a disjunction, a negation, and a conditional. It involves a set of parentheses. So I will include some information about how you always set up two-statement truth tables, as well as the thought process that goes in organizing your work so you can come up with a conclusion. So the first thing I do is I look at my statement, and I see my statement says not P or Q in parentheses. If not P or Q in parentheses, then Q. So if this were an implication, Q would be the conclusion, because anytime we have a conditional, it could also be like we're trying to prove something. It's kind of like we're trying to prove that if this is always true, then Q is always true. That's what the if-then means. That whenever the left side is true, the right side is true. And if that comes out to be true, then you've proven the argument valid. But let's back up a bit. I count how many different letters I see. It doesn't matter that I have a not. I see I have a P and I have a Q. And I make a column for P and a column for Q. I don't make a column for not P initially. These are what I call these two columns here are the input columns. And anytime you have a two-statement truth table, and there's only two different letters, that's why there's two statements, you're going to have 4 rows. And you have to, in these first 2 columns, go left to right in alphabetical order, though I admit your text does not always go in alphabetical order. But they always do the following. The left side, if there's 4 rows, the first 2 are true, and the next 2 are false. And then in the right column, you start with true and you alternate. And what this does is it guarantees that you get every possible input combination of P and Q, and you get them once and only once. If you had written true, true for Q and then false, false, you wouldn't have ever had the true, false, or false, true combination. So it's very important that you follow this order, because one of the things we do is we compare the results, the final column of truth tables, to tell whether statements are equivalent. And if you haven't set up the inputs the same, you can't compare them easily. So this is a standard convention, not just in this class, but in mathematics, when you're using truth tables with trues and falses. And I think it's even true in philosophy classes. You'll find them set up the same way. So the way I get two statements is 4 rows is, you have 2 choices to make for P and Q. P can either be true or false. Well, if P is true, Q can still either be true or false. If P is false, Q can still be either true or false. So that gives you 4 paths. And so there's 2 choices for each. That's the base. And the fact that you make 2 different choices, this base comes from the fact that you have 2 choices to make for each letter. This exponent comes from the number of letters. So you'll see, and as far as we'll go in this course, is we'll go to 3 statements. That'll be 8 rows when we get there. So I've set up my inputs. It doesn't even matter what my statement said. If these are the only 2 letters involved, my inputs are going to look like this. Now I have to start sorting out what I'm going to do with the rest of the information. In math, we learn that we do what's in parentheses first. And whenever you're making a truth table, you're only ever doing one step at a time. So I want to do what's in these parentheses. Now, if this were just P or Q, I would put it right here. But I have a negation of P involved. I want to write a column that shows, so I want a column that shows what's on the left of this disjunction and a column that shows what's on the right of this disjunction. So I'm going to make a column for not P. And this is the creative part. This is the how do you know what to do next. I know what to do it because I see I need a not P in order to figure out what's inside the parentheses. So I make a column for not P, and in each row, in this top blue row here, I see P is true. Not P is the opposite of P, so I write false. In the second row, P is true, so not P is false. In the third row, I look at the value of P in the third row. P is false there, so the opposite of P is true. So each row, I'm evaluating 4 negations. I'm doing it for each row as I go down. In the 4th row, P is false, so in the 4th row, the negation of P is true. Now, I want to do not P or Q, because that's what's in parentheses. So I'm going to do not P or Q. Now, the nice thing about the or statement and the and the if and only if, the only one this doesn't hold for is the if then, is the order doesn't matter. So I don't need to rewrite Q over on the right side because it's on the right. So the left side is not P, the right side is Q. So basically I have these two columns I'm combining with an OR. So in order to do that, I see I have a true or a false. That's a true. So let's title my column here. This is not P or Q. Okay. So to do that, I title, I look, I have a true, I have a false or a true. That's a true. Not P is false, Q is false. Oh, that's the case for or that I have a false. Neither thing I said was true. Either I'll wash the car or I'll fill the tank with gas. I didn't do either of those, so you call me a liar. Now, if I did both of those, true or true, that's true. And true or false. So for the or statement, anytime you have a true, the statement's true. The only time you get a false is when you have two falses. And the order doesn't matter, so we can just look at these to each row together. I have a true and a false, true or a false. It gives me a true. It doesn't matter that I didn't go in that order. Now, for the if-then, the order does matter, because let's remember what the evaluation of the if-then is. If you have a true, then a true, you get a true. If you have a true, then a false, you get a false. But if you have a false, then a true, and if you don't understand this, look more at the materials on conditional statements for the explanation. I've used some examples in class. False, then a false is also a true, and students have a hard time with that one. If I promise you, if you get a 93, if you have a 93 average, then you'll get an A. Well, if you at 93 or above, so if your average was an 85 and you didn't get an A, the left is false, the right is false, but you can't call me a liar. You can't call my boss on that and say, hey, she didn't follow her syllabus. Now, if you have a 94 average and I give you a B, I didn't give you an A, then you can do something about it. That's what the second row means. If you had an 85 average, which is not a 93, that would make the left side false. But I gave you an A, nobody calls to complain about that. So that's considered to be not lying. That's true. So these are the facts. And what you need to notice is in these two rows, the order matters. When you have a mix of trues and falses, the order matters with the if-then. So I see I have this statement on the left and a Q on the right. Well, Q is over here on the left. I'm going to rewrite Q here. So I'm looking left to right. So I'm looking in the direction of the if-then. I'm going to put the answer right in the middle. So, and some of you may prefer to put the answer over here. It doesn't matter. To be honest with you, there's some choice as long as you get to that final column correctly. So I'm going to rewrite the column for Q. It goes true, false over here. So I'm just copying this column over here. Now I have my if-then. True, then true. I look down here. I see that's a true. False, then false. Oh, that's also true. True, then true. That's true. True, then false. That's false. This is my final column, and this implication would be false because they need to be all trues here in order for the implication to be true, and there aren't all trues. There's a false here, so if this were an implication, this would be false. So, a couple things here. How to set up a two-statement truth table, how to break down the problem into smaller parts, how to organize your work for the if-then so the left and the right are in the correct direction so you don't make mistakes, and then how to evaluate the if-then. I'm hoping this is helpful. I will be making some more short videos. Thank you for your time.